Good morning, noon, or night, wherever and whenever you're listening to The Shift. My name is Doug McKenty. I'm your host. This episode of The Shift was recorded on June 28th, 2018. It's the 38th episode of The Shift. This introduction is being recorded on July 30th, 2018. If you like what you're listening to, please think about becoming a patron. That's patreon.com/The Shift. I'm on Facebook at The Shift with Doug McKenty. Join the conversation on Twitter at DMcKenty, and for my archives and other information about the show, check out my website at theshiftnow.com. First, I want to thank everyone for their patience. I've been extremely busy with my day job. It's been over a month since I posted my last episode. My next guest on the program is well worth the wait, however. It has been my great honor and privilege to have recorded this conversation with Chief Arvol Lookinghorse, spiritual leader of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota nations of the Sioux tribe indigenous to North America. He is the 19th generation keeper of the sacred pipe given to the Sioux people by White Buffalo Calf Woman, along with the knowledge of 7 sacred ceremonies which together create the foundation of the traditional Sioux way of life. Being tasked with this responsibility at the age of 12, Chief Lookinghorse has made it his life's work to assist in the fulfillment of the mending of the hoop of all nations, seeking to create a path towards a more harmonious way of being with each other, as well as promoting a culture of balance and attunement with the needs of the Mother Earth. Following the birth of a white buffalo calf in 1994, prophesied to coincide with a positive shift in the planet's cultural evolution, Chief Lookinghorse began an annual celebration entitled World Peace and Prayer Day, held each year on the summer solstice, designed to unite all nations and all faiths together under one prayer for all people. For me, this conversation provided insight into a cultural perspective that observes a sacred connection between all things and inspires us all to move forward, helping to create positive change in a good way. I hope it does the same for you. Thanks for listening, and really, I hope you enjoy the conversation. Thank you, Chief Arvol Lookinghorse, for agreeing to do this interview, and thank you for helping to make the shift. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and your work as the chief of the Lakota Nation?
Yes, I live on the Cheyenne River Reservation in South Dakota, and we have a very large reservation. It takes 2 hours to go across our reservation, going speed limit. And anyway, today I do international peace work, and we do like World Peace and Prayer Day with our people. So we do our best to work with our people in this world today. So right now we have many prophecies that is coming about in the world today, and this is some things that we are doing is to protect our Maniwichoni, our water of life. We took a stand at Standing Rock. We protected the water, the black snake, the prophecy. And the black snake is it's the tar roads when you first lay the tar roads, and then the second coming of the black snake is pipelines that well. It's poisonous, but when it goes into the ground, that's when it would grown Wachimaka, Mother Earth. So that's a prophecy of the black snake. And today, we from Standing Rock, water is everywhere, and so there's many prophecies coming about with that in our time right now. With my position as Chanupawanka is keeper of the sacred pipe, the 19th generation. And every year, every generation is 100 years, and the sacred bundle keeper. So I'm the 19th one. And the story is that the first bundle keeper lived 4 times, and that was spiritually like told in our traditional. Our ways is all oral history. Nothing is written, so you don't find anything in the books of our people that are. We do everything in a protocol way of our ceremonies. So we put people through ceremony. Started from being a child being born till the 4 stages of our life. So these are traditional ways that we do live this life in a traditional way. And our ceremonies is about healing, or we talk about our relatives, and everything has a spirit. That's the way we recognize in this world that we live in. From the water is a spirit, and grandmother Earth is a spirit, and everything that is, like the plant, the trees, the animals. So, but our way of life here, we follow the animal nation, and then we also through our way of life is praying to the grandfathers, to the 4 directions. So in our sacred sites, our ceremonies, we go back to our sacred sites and pray there for like the 4 seasons. Like March 21st, we go back to the Sesapa, the Black Hills of South Dakota, and we pray to the west for rain, the thunder beings, Waki and Oyate, to maintain our environment, and so the rain, the thunder beings will come back in a good way and give us the blessing of the medicine, the water of life, back to Ujimaka, grandmother Earth. So our ceremonies is all 4 seasons. The 4 seasons, like June 21st, we go back to Matrotipila, and they call it Devil's Tower. And we would like to change that back to Matrotipila. But June 21st, we do ceremony, and that's the time we pray for the environment and peace. So when we went back to Matrotipila, we call it World Peace and Prayer Day. So today, those are things that we're doing right now. We just got done with our World Peace and Prayer Day on June 21st. And praying that there'll be peace, and we pray for the environment all over the world. Because in our prophecy, it says that someday will be that man has gone too far. And we're living in those times where boundaries have been crossed spiritually. So there's a lot of things that we're faced with in the world today. because of the spiritual abuse that man has. They talk about man has gone too far. That they talk about their spirituality. That a lot of people have are spiritually disconnected through their tradition, their oral history, or their family, nation's way of life. So that's what things that we talk about with World Peace and Purity, with the environment, is the abuse of grandmother Earth, and she has a fever, and the white animals shall be born during these times. So in our tradition, that's the wolf, the laws of the people when they talk about a way of life. And so 1994, the first white buffalo was born in Janesville, Wisconsin. And every year, there shall be the white buffalo calf and white animals being born all over the world. That Mother Earth is sick, and that's the only way to communicate to the people is through the white animals. That's a prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman. So we are living those times right now, where in that time, the first World Peace and Purity, I made a statement saying that we are at the crossroads. Either be faced with a lot of chaos, disasters, different types of viruses, sickness, tears from our relatives' eyes, or we can unite spiritually in this global community. That means we need to unite as nations, because in our tradition here in North America, all the First Nations people, we believe in the same way, is that Changleshka Wakha, the sacred hoop, that there's no person higher than the other, or there's no nations higher than the other, but to respect each other in peace and harmony. So those are things that we are going back to anyway.
What do you think is the cause right now? Why are things so out of balance? Is it just this time in history, or is it because so many people are making bad choices?
Yes, well, we talk about excuse me. Yeah, we talk about the bad choices or greed that are spiritually disconnected, because the lifestyle that we live, and that there's no prayer no more. Even at our blessing in our homes, to pray with the food, that medicine, or that Steinrock, we made a statement saying that the water is our first medicine and needs to be protected or to be prayed with too. Nobody does that no more. So yeah, just with the lifestyle or Western society that everybody works, and like our First Nations people, we make sure that we get up with a good mind, and we pray with everything, the water, our medicine. So those are things that we have to always keep in mind every day. That's a way of life for our people here. So to walk in that Chankuluta, the red road, we call it, to live. It's not only is it a spiritual life, but a way of life that understanding that everything is in a circle, that cycle of life, or the way that in our traditional way, we're supposed to have horses or buffalo everywhere because these are the things that bring the animal nation, bring the water to. So we use that in the ceremony. We pray to the west for the horse nation, and so that they would respect our territory because they too bring water, the buffalo and the horses, and they have the same feelings like all of us. Like the animal nation, they can have they can cry or they can be happy, but they know the danger, or they like they can feel that when something is not right. The horses and the buffalo, they can feel it. So we watch the animals like for weather. Uh, in traditional ways, we watch the animals how they conduct themselves to, and that's the way that we we follow the animal nation. And they when they know when rain is coming, the elders they watch them and they or how they with the moon, how the moon sets and it could be a dry month or so these are things that we watch for from the sun, the moon, the stars, and so a lot of our teachings with our sacred sites. When we go back to our sacred sites, these are things that has been explained to the younger people to live that life respecting that spirit and respecting the way of life. So we have a song for everything. We have a prayer to maintain the health and well-being of our nation. So these are things that we do. We try to bring that back with our people, the younger generation here, and going into schools and inviting the schools to go back to these sacred places and listen to the elders' teachings, the woke, the laws of our people, and the leadership role. You can't have drugs or alcohol in your body when you make decisions for the family or for the nation, our people, the leadership role. Because a lot of people today, they use some kind of drug addiction or pills. And when you're sick, and you can't make decisions wise. So in our tradition, you gotta be drug and alcohol free. And today, people try to say that marijuana is a medicine, but it's not. It's not part of our ceremony. So we don't allow any even marijuana use with our ceremonies. So our way of life today is to be strongly based towards leadership of keeping your word. Once you make that commitment, you keep your word. And that's what we teach the young people. You can't have guns or maintain like the health of the people, and which is like based on nonviolence, because we live in a world where the greed and the thought process of a man, it's very dangerous, because if you don't live by the traditions and the laws of nature, people are going to be very dangerous. So these are things that we try to explain to the young people, to be drug and alcohol free, and to be a person with a good mind, to go back to our sacred ceremonies, our sacred sites, and so the protocols has to be met. The vows has to be the commitment. People have to make those commitments, and through our ceremonies, to even go back to our ceremonies at our sacred sites, or our ceremonies anyway. So those are things that we explain about, not only as a human being, but more so towards leadership of our people. So those are things that we are working with today.
Well, the Lakota people I know have been doing a lot of work to preserve their traditional ways. Can you describe? I know even trying to keep the language alive has been challenging, and I know there's been a lot of work done in that. Can you talk about the difficulties and the challenges that the Lakota people, but even indigenous people here in North America, have had to deal with to keep the languages alive and to keep the ceremonies, the knowledge of the ceremonies and the traditions going?
Yeah, I was a spiritual leader, a medicine person at the age of 12 years old, to be the keeper of the sacred pipe. And my position, we can't carry a gun, or we can't join military. So I never did. In our tradition now, we can't use foul language, because the language is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And we're living in a spiritual world. So every day, we pray with our food or medicine or everything. And so you can't, when you're doing that, you can't use foul language. And because we're living in a spirit of ceremony, or this environment we live. Like we talk about the energy, the wolf, the the knowledge of our ancestors, and so it has to be kept high as a person standing up, and that's the way the wavelength of our communication with our spiritual understanding. So when we honor somebody with a eagle feather, we have to stand them up and tie that eagle feather to that hair, because we believe that the hair is that's where the spirit is. So we can't cut our hair, because long hair of our people, that's taking care of your spirit. So you can't cut your hair, man and woman. And so the only time that you cut your hair is when you lose a family member, because everything is based on the hair, the knowledge, and that's how the spirit recognize people. And It's so there's a whole teaching about the hair, why you can't cut your hair, and our people, they always make sure that the sacred knowledge is respected in that way. Where when you honor somebody, you have to stand them up. Or when we do prayers or sing our spiritual songs, we have to stand up because that's the respect for that sacred knowledge. So that with that, we make sure that you stand. In fact, the white buffalo cap woman said, "Take off your humpas, take off your moccasins, and stand on the ground." And then, so there's a direct healing from the sun, and standing on the ground is a direct communication with the spirit. Hmm. So their ceremonies is based on that too. That people have to remove their shoes and stand on the ground or walk on the ground. These are things that we have to teach the young ones to make sure that they do that respectful way. And so when you sit on the ground, there's a way to sit on the ground in a ceremony. Like the man has to sit in a certain way, the women has to sit in a certain way to properly respect the ceremony. And that's why people look at the young person, the way they act, at the families. So those are things that the elders watch for. And look at the families, how the families conduct themselves.
Mm-hmm. So what you're describing is, it seems like a way of life that's really connected to this energy or the life energy.
Yeah.
Like in Western culture, and you've discussed this as it's disconnected from this energy. Can you just describe, because so many people who are they're in Western culture, they just don't even see it. I think it's a difficult way for them to understand at all. Can you try to describe a little more about what that's like to be connected to the energy in this way?
Yeah. In our tradition, any place in this Turtle Island, we call America. Long time ago, like in our tradition, you gotta have a tobacco. Tobacco is universal, and anytime that you go someplace, you have you carry loose tobacco, and then you offer that loose tobacco, a pinch or a handful of tobacco to somebody to when you go into people's territory, you offer that tobacco to that territory, or even just to pray. You go to the trees or to the hill, a sacred mountain or sacred site. You offer that tobacco. That you gotta carry that loose tobacco. That's a spiritual offering that we have with our people here. Mm-hmm. And so that's the original teaching, is that make sure that you have some tobacco to offer. Always have that, no matter where you go. Okay, that's one of the first teachings, and the other one is like make sure that properly respect yourself. Like when you come to our people, you represent yourself with dignity, with peace. so that and those are things that whereas they make sure that these are a spiritual person would do. But later on, people were living a society where spiritually disconnected people, and like in our tradition, we we hug each other, or we shake hands in a good way, or help each other in a good way. But today we live in a such society where we don't like even neighbors they can't get along, or brothers and sisters they can't get along, and so those are the opposite. It's you people are angry, or they can't get along. Those are things that is happening now. Yeah. So the environment that we live in, it's a very sacred language. Uh, Even the language is sacred. So when you speak the language, and you walk this life in this environment, everybody. In fact, our homes should be the most sacred place where people come, and they can feel that energy in the house. The, like the elders, when they're very spiritually connected, they where they go to like in our tradition we do, it's called house blessing ceremony, where they clean out, do prayers and smudge the house and pray with the family, and they call it house blessing. Well, these are things that we don't do today because people are very angry, or you can feel the energy. The elders said that they can feel that energy in this housing that we live in. People don't take care of their spirits once we lose somebody. So the spirit still remains in the communities, and they see the relatives like that. So the house blessing, and these are things that should be done, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So we when after we lose a loved one, we take care of their spirit right away. After 1 year, they do a spirit releasing ceremony. So their spirit go back to with their relatives in that spiritual world. It's called Manaki Chanku, the spiritual road. So these are things that we're not doing today. So the elders, they say that our relatives are waiting up there, and a lot of our people they don't make it up there. So there's a great concern,
Mm-hmm.
because people are not going into the spirit world no more because of the life that we live, and these are the sickness that is affecting people, family, and even when a child is born, there's a ceremony that you have to wait. There's a period of time to pray and receive this child by a midwife, so that it's a very spiritual ceremony. If you don't do that in a proper way, it's going to affect the young boy or girl, okay, child being born. So these are things that are affecting us spiritually, and so we call it chekpa. Chekpa is a belly button. When that falls off, we make a pouch for that, so the family can keep that pouch. And so, like in our tradition, where the child is born, that's we come back and when we go, when a person dies, they're buried someplace close by where the child is born. So it's that's what, like the animal nation, they do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that we follow the animal nation. And the tree of life is very important to our life. It's one of the ceremonies that white buffalo calf woman brought is that tree of life. The ceremony and the spiritual connection between the Great Spirit and Mother Earth, and that's the Sundance. But the tree of life is it's also in our hearts. When a birth they call it Tumpi. Tumpi is birth, and the grandfathers that we pray to is called Tunka. Tunka is a great spirit, and so in that the way that we look at life is our heart is that's a tree there in our heart. And long time ago, our people do ceremonies in the Black Hills, and that's where all the white buffalo calf woman came, and this is where we do all this. Go back to do all the ceremonies, the Four Seasons ceremony in the Black Hills, because that's where from the satellite view of the Black Hills, it shapes like a heart. But if you look at the heart, it's like an open heart, and all the rivers, the creeks, and the streams, they all connected like that. So it's like a veins of a heart, like an open heart. And these are all this is a very sacred names that was given to these rivers and the creeks and streams. So that's our teaching, is that you got to respect that water no matter where you go on this turtle island. So that's a picture of the satellite view of the Black Hills as like an open heart, and the rivers have a spiritual name. Okay, on the other, on a broader view of North America, USA, all the rivers and the creeks and everything, they have a very spiritual name. But all this goes back into the Missouri River, called Minnesota. Minnesota is a very strong connection to the water of life. So we pray and we do ceremonies and we offer tobacco to that the water, the spirit. And but it goes into that main river. All the rivers and creeks goes into Minnesota, and it goes into New Orleans, the water. So in our treaties, it's based on that water. So we're on the western side and the eastern banks of Missouri. That's our treaty. And because in our ceremonies, we're supposed to protect that water, that life, the sacred life. And goes back to the creation story of Ea and then Maniwachoni. Maniwachoni is a second spirit. So in our oral history, everything is spiritual like that, and the sacred language and the prayers that we do, and so it's the understanding that from Wakanta, the Great Spirit, we look down upon the earth, and these are things that we take care of, like in Turtle Island, looks shapes like a turtle, the U.S. North America. But within that, now we have the teachings of the 28 spiritual days. Like these are the teachings of the turtle, the Kea. Like on the shell, these are the teachings that come with it. So a lot of these animals now that we use in the ceremony, like the buffalo and the horse, they have a circle right in the middle of the forehead, because these are ceremonial, like what the white buffalo calf woman brought the sacred pipe, and that will pray the laws, and that we have to follow these laws to keep this spiritual life going, like that. Like Changleshka Waka is a sacred hoop that this way of life that we live and respect, and to live in peace and harmony. So when Crazy Horse had that last dream at the Black Hills, he talked about a prophecy, and he didn't want to sign the treaty because he wanted to live his life freely. But in his dream, he talked about a time in his dream he saw the future, and it said it was bad. Then in his dream it said it's going to even get worse, where the abuse and the spiritual abuse, and it's going to be very bad. And then at the end, all nations would unite under the sacred tree. See, the sacred tree is the water, and in our heart, in the Black Hills, that's what I explained, and then the water, and that someday the abuse of the water would affect the people, and that's what he prophesied. And going back to when I was at the age of 12, I had a dream too about this, because in my dream I saw the earth and it was green, and then what they showed me again the second time, the whole land was very dry. So I knew at the age of 12 years old that someday the abuse of water and the land will be dry. So that's a dream that was given to me as a keeper of the sacred bundle. But there was a time in the early 30s, mid 30s, called the Dust Bowl, where people were spiritually abusing life, and they talked about the whole North America. There's a Dust Bowl that came across, and that was a great warning for us. And in that Dust Bowl, people died and people got lost, animals too. So the mid 30s, this Dust Bowl was and that was foretold a long time ago by the elders, that if we don't straighten up, there's going to be it's going to humble us by nature, and it did. That was in the early 30s, mid 30s. So they brought the non-Indians, they brought 2 cows to our spiritual ceremony, and these farmers and ranchers said no. They all came and said, "Do you Indians do your thing, with nature, with your ceremonies."
Mm-hmm.
So they did, and then after that ceremony, the Wakinos, the Thunder people, they came back and it started raining and raining, and came back to life again. So these are history of America that we live in, and so the elders said, "No, we know the past, we know what's happening now, and we know what's going to happen in the future." So there's many prophecies that's coming about that people have to listen if they want to survive in this world. And it's the spiritual connection between Father Sky, the sun, the stars, and based on our spiritual life here, the sacred sites. And that's why we start doing World Peace and Prayer Day for 20 years now. And people are starting to get that understanding that we have to go back to our traditional ways of offering that tobacco to the earth and walking this, recognizing that everything has a spirit and has feelings. So these are things that we want to share with all people in this Turtle Island or everywhere in the whole world, because today the whole world is faced with global changes, and it's going to affect the water deeply. And so we talked about the abuse of the earth, and so we made a statement saying that no fracking, because things like that you can't. Once you do it, you can't take it back.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to affect the waterways of Mother Earth. So like that. So these are things that we have to respect, is that water, and just to pray with it and make sure that we're living a sustainable way of life here for the future of our children. If we're going to respect that, then so once we respect life in a sacred way, then there shall be life. Like that.
It seems like this disconnect that so many people have with the spiritual life and the spiritual energy. You've talked a little bit about how, well, without the ceremonies, bringing children into the world, the ceremonies to help people after they cross over, and then this disconnect that's happening, it's I think caused a lot of trauma for a lot of people. I don't even think they realize how bad they're hurting, but then as you describe, so many people are living with anger, and they're not getting along even with their neighbors. It seems then like there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. I think with all of the war that's been happening for so many years now, and the toxins and the damage to the environment, that people are hurting maybe more than they even realize. They're in a kind of a denial about it. But what can people do to start to heal? I mean, what is this healing path, that we can start to walk so that we can, see some real changes here, and people can become more sensitive to the energies and start to bring more spirit into their lives?
Yeah. In our tradition, there's an equal respect between man and woman. But we live in a society where the men are more like in power, and the women in our tradition, they're the protectors of the family, and not only. I mean, what I mean is that when a child is born, and then the mother has a lot of responsibility. They're the backbone of our nation, the women. So what happens is like there's got to be a respect for the women, because the ceremony when a child is born, then the baby is given to the mother, and the mother has to nurse that baby. And today we're living in a world where as soon as a child is born, they put them on, they nurse them at bottles like milk.
Mm-hmm.
But the mother has to nurse that because of that's where the spiritual connection and the connection of like a child is. That's the way that they're connected, mentally, spiritually, and physically. That's when it starts anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time goes on, we got to treat them as like a gift. And but when a child is born and given like they always call it asampi hokaja, is like they bottle the baby, so they're spiritually disconnected already, they're not spiritually connected, but there's a connection that is not happening. So in their mind, they and the body and spirit, we're pushing them away, and that's where the anger and the jealousies and all the things that should be on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we do a ceremony here where we put them back in the balance, so they can, when a child is like the elders, they know by looking at a child, or the child needs to be doctored to be put in the rightful path. There's a ceremony that they do that the elders do, and those are things that we don't, like the elders hardly don't do that today because nobody listens. That's what the elders say anyway.
Mm-hmm. So you're with World Peace and Prayer Day, then you're hoping that more people will start to listen, and then,
yeah,
as you say, you describe it as the sacred hoop can come together, that all nations can have respect for each other and feel equality for each other, and in this way we can at least start to deal with the trauma that so many have felt, and hopefully start to get away from all of this war and all of the environmental damage that's happening right now, so we can start to heal the planet. Can you go into World Peace and Prayer Day, as a solution, and then, I guess I know that it's not like all people who are part of Western culture can suddenly start, the Lakota ways are the Lakota ways. It's not like people are going to jump in and start to just copy indigenous ways. It seems almost like Western peoples need to discover or rediscover their own ways as a long-term plan to start to try to heal in this way.
Yes, World Peace and Prayer Day is based on all nations, all faiths, one prayer. But to respect each other's tradition and culture, and that the story or the prophecy or the elders, they talk about, that for instance, the food and the medicine that their bodies used to. It's your own body history and your hair. So the hair that you take care of is has its own language and medicine that needs to be to do that body healing is going back to your own medicine that your body's used to or your food.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that we're asking people to pray in their own way so they can be more healthier and they can be more happier. So World Peace and Prayer Day is just to give that responsibility back to their nations, and but to pray together because we have no choice today. And in our spiritual ways, in our ceremonies, we're saying that. On the other hand, we have the scientists are saying now we are at the point of no return. That everything has escalated so fast that the climate change and the way that our lifestyle is making our people sick. So, and these are things that needs to be thought about and prayed about, and that we need to pray. Our prayers very in our lifetime today. We need to we shouldn't be spiritually disconnected, but to once again find that prayer, because I think there's a guy. His name is Yamato. He showed that that prayer is very important because by using that water, and when he put two containers of water, and then on the left side, he very harsh words being said to that water, and that water changes color to different colors, kind of grayish color, not good water. And then he went to the other side, and the water, the container, and he started really respecting that water, like it's a spirit, talking to it and singing it to it, and that water was very beautiful and clean. So that he proved that one side is when you abuse, if you don't pray with that water, abuse that water, it's not to be healthy. On the other hand, you pray with that water, it became a spirit, it became a medicine. So he proved that. So that's what our prayers are about. You got to pray with that food. It becomes a medicine, a spiritual medicine to our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that we know for a fact.
It's so interesting that really what you're describing is to rekindle that spiritual connection. All you have to do is care about yourself and the food that you put in your body and the water that you put in your body. And the message is so simple, and yet it seems like the journey to be able to do that is so hard. The habits and the trauma that people are holding on to are so difficult to let go of. Can you just talk about this? I mean, the change, even though it seems like it would be simple for people to understand this, the journey to that end, I think, will be difficult. So can you just describe what you see as this process of change and the energy shift that needs to happen in order to bring things back in balance?
The spiritual, the mind, body, and spirit, we have to take care of through prayer, and then But if you don't do that, then you're opening yourself up to that sickness, that or the disease, and it jumps from like one body to another, or like the spiritual sickness could. Uh, so I'm just saying what like our tradition is. You have to protect your body spiritually, physically, and mentally to be healthy. And but on the like the World Peace and Prayer Day, we're talking about Mother Earth that's sick and has a fever, and just starting one day of prayer and a day that we can stop using electricity or stop using styrofoam cups and bowls, things of nature that affect Mother Earth. If you can stop that in one day, you can, even just one day, it means a lot. But if you practice it, physically, mentally, and spiritually with that prayer, you will see your own way. It'll come to you sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
What we are trying to describe here through prayer, Oh.
Yeah, very good. I mean, we've already talked for a little longer than I thought that we would. So if you have any kind of concluding comments or any real message that you just want to give out to everyone before we end the conversation here. I know one of the things that you describe is trying to change our energy source and get away from the oil and the gas and the coal and try to shift into a different way of viewing, how we're going to live. Well, one other thing maybe you could touch on before we go is this idea of the myth of progress that so many people are trapped inside of. I think this oil-based economy has gotten people thinking that they've progressed and that they're better because of this, and maybe trying to eliminate that habit and shift into a different way of thinking about our energy and resources and how we use resources might be a good conclusion and a way to start kind of walking this healing path.
We as spiritual medicine people, we prayed, and we only take what we need in our ceremony, and then so we can be that. There's a ceremony that we do too. Is called giveaway, and so we give things away that we from our hearts in a good way, that things will be good, like that, to keep maintain that spiritual connection, and so we have a giveaway, so we don't be greedy.
Mm-hmm.
And then but we also give away because it's part of our ceremony. But what our teaching is, a very sacred spiritual life, and I think, and I know that other nations, spiritual people, do the same thing, is maintaining prayer, and only they're not like just like the ceremony that we do is to only try to live that simple life, and I think that's the life that we are living in, should be living in. And if we don't, when I became the keeper of the secret pipe at the age of 12 years old, 1966, when my grandmother passed on, she told the people to straighten up. If the people don't straighten up, then I can be the last ticket bundle keeper. That means we if the people don't straighten up in this world, we can destroy it and make our life short. So these are things that I working hard to make sure that we have a long life, and because our way of life is about how sacred life is, and understanding that everything has to be respected in that way.
Well, I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I have great respect for the Lakota ways, and I hope that other people who are listening to this can understand where you're coming from, and maybe start to take those steps that are necessary to start taking care of themselves, to start kind of awakening that spiritual connection in themselves. I guess one of the things that I had read that you said is that it's really up to every individual's choice, and that every individual is here to make these choices during this really important time. So, that idea that each individual, I guess it's just so easy for people to get lost in despair and feel like they're powerless. But I guess maybe talk about that how each individual has the power to make this difference for themselves.
Yes, we're living and being taught that you have to follow instructions and everything, but no. Spiritually, like in our traditional way of life, is that in that sacred hoop, there's no one. Every person is equally respected in that sacred hoop, and everybody has a voice to empower each other and to be respected in that way, that they can have a voice. So those are the teachings that I go by, and then what I said, like what you said earlier, is like about my work and my words there. That today, that man has gone too far, and we warn that someday you will not be able to control what you have created. And now we're living in that world today. So the prayers, we need to get back to our spiritual prayers and a way of life. To that Mother Earth is a spirit, that we all have to stand up and protect Mother Earth, and start thinking about the prayer for the food, simple things like that, and the water to put in our bodies and protect our mind, body, and spirit like that.
Well, very good, Chief Arvol Lookinghorse. Thank you very much for talking to me, and I hope that you have great success in spreading this message, and I hope that more and more people have ears to hear what you're saying. If there's anything else that I could ever do for you, if you have a message that you want to get out, then I'll be happy to try to help you in any way that I can, and we'll be praying that your work is successful. This is such an important time of change, and we can only hope that more and more people start to make better choices, so that this energy shift can happen in a positive way for the people, and people can start detoxifying and being more healthy and reconnecting with spirit. So thank you very much for doing this interview. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, take care.
Okay.